Hello guys, welcome to another session. So here in this session, we are going to discuss one of the most important topic in sociology, that's Émile Durkheim's concept of division of labor. And we'll also look at the related concepts like mechanical solidarity, organic solidarity, etc. See, this is not just a classical concept, but also it has significant relevance in understanding modern work culture. So they'll ask you modern work culture, give a sociological understanding or a sociological note, social integration, that we will be discussing both in terms of mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity, and also the relationship between individual and society, which are part of the syllabus and which is again very important, and you will be getting questions often about this. See, Durkheim was actually concerned with a question. That's how this entire concept is starting. In modern society is very complex. So that I can give you the exact statement. In modern complex societies where everyone is so different and perform different roles, what holds the society together? So Durkheim's attempt to answer this question resulted into his theory of division of labor. So in this lecture, what we are going to do is we are going to analyze what is division of labor. I'll be giving you the definition which is given by Durkheim, and then we discuss Durkheim's theory and its sociological foundation. Then we will look at the relationship between individual and society, and then we'll also look at the evolution from mechanical to organic solidarity. We will have to look at the abnormal forms of division of labor, because whenever you talk about any theory of Durkheim, so finally you will be talking about abnormal forms. So first and most importantly, it's a causal functional theory. So you explain the cause, you explain the function, and once you have done with that, you also talk about the abnormal forms before you talk about the criticisms, relevance, and the significance and other things. And then we finally talk about the solution, which is given by Durkheim through professional ethics and socialism and other things. So there, another question can be asked, that is Durkheim's concept of socialism. So all these are what we are going to cover. And if you look at the questions which has been asked before from this topic, they directly ask you organic and mechanical solidarity, or they will ask you what is division of labor and discuss Durkheim's concept of division of labor, or they'll ask you what according to Durkheim is the relationship between individual and society discussed in the light of the theory of division of labor, or they give you a statement something like individual while becoming more autonomous comes to depend more heavily on society. Discuss a statement in the light of Durkheim's theory of division of labor. So you are becoming more autonomous, you comes to depend more heavily on society, because more and more division of labor, more and more interdependence. That's exactly what we need to discuss towards the end. Okay, so let's get started. I hope this session is definitely going to give you complete understanding of division of labor. So there's a quick revision actually, guys. Let's look at the definition first. What is division of labor? Division of labor means splitting up of activities into number of parts, into some smaller processes. See, you have an activity to perform, you split into number of parts or smaller processes, and each of these will be undertaken by different people or group of people. So the definition goes like this: splitting up of activities into number of parts or smaller processes, and that will be undertaken by different persons or group of person. So in simple term, it means what? Specialization of work. You are specialized in one area, so when you split up that activity, the person who is specialized in that will take care of that work. So when different individuals perform different tasks in society, which means simply specialization of work. I hope that is very clear. So Durkheim's work, this is a very important work, and we talk about this when we discuss about other cases also. When we talk about alienation of Marx, there also we will be bringing about this. So this actually found in the book, written in 1893, that is Division of Labor in Society. So he was not the first to use the term. Of course, Adam Smith, in his book Wealth of Nation, used division of labor in an entirely different sense, that is economic sense. But when Durkheim took up the analysis, this is not an economy related topic, rather it became a sociological topic. Okay, so it was actually defined and explained in terms of something which is increasing productivity, profitability, right, revenue. That's how the economic understanding. But Durkheim gave a sociological dimension, a social meaning which goes beyond economics. So even if you get a question comparison with sociology and economics, there you can bring in division of labor. Have studied in economics in this way, in terms of productivity, profitability. On the other side, sociology, it has been studied as a social integration, social meaning, social relevance, and sociological aspect. Okay, so now let's discuss further into Durkheim's sociological perspective. See, according to Durkheim, society is sui generis. Now, what do you mean by that? That is a reality in itself. That means society comes into existence itself. And he believed that individual consciousness is shaped by the collective conscience. So collectivity, the society is superior according to Durkheim. So he is giving a macro approach. He is giving importance to society and the social facts like norms. But we already discussed about social facts. So division of labor is a social fact. So what do you mean by social fact? All these things which are existing in society are social facts. The norms, the values, the laws, all these social facts are shaping the individual behavior. So here you can clearly see society has the primacy over the individual. And Durkheim's main concern was, as I started in the beginning itself, how the social order is maintained in such complex modern society where individuals are highly autonomous. Now, if you remember in the beginning itself, I've given you a question: individual while becoming more autonomous comes to depend heavily on society. So here, this question answered in that way towards the end. So I hope you are getting that connection, and let's go further. So this question that actually led him to investigate the social role of division of labor. And he identified this is a social fact which binds the individual together. So let's try to understand how is that actually happening. Before that, let's talk about this concept of mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. See, mechanical solidarity is a solidarity which was between people in the traditional society, which was mechanical. I explained that organic solidarity, like in the organic, it have an organic character, the solidarity that we have in the modern society. Just like organs in the body, every organ is independent and different, but all are connected, right? So we all are independent. We do perform different tasks, but we all are connected. Though we are independent, we are more connected because we seek in others what we lack in ourselves, right? And associations are formed wherever there is a true exchange of service. We don't have everything within ourselves. We need to depend upon others. So the modern society is highly interdependent, which is that organic solidarity. So let's talk about the exact definition and other things. When we talk about the primitive society, so to explain mechanical solidarity, he take that primitive society. So when you talk about the primitive society, where you find that mechanical solidarity, which is mechanically enforced. Modern society, organic solidarity, which is organically forming because you don't have any choice. You are dependent upon others. There it is mechanically created, like people perform the similar occupation in primitive societies. There is no such interdependence. Population is also very low. Everybody is known to each other, and society is very much segmentary into different groups and segments divided into small self-sufficient units. So there is a strong collective conscience, right? Importance to society. And the laws there are repressive. Strong laws, strong punishments if you violate the norms. And the social bonds are basically based on the similarity. So that create the mechanical solidarity where unity comes from likeness. People are alike. So that's a kind of mechanical solidarity. Laws are repressive, strong collective conscience, the traditional society I'm talking about. Now coming to modern society. So here population increase, that what Durkheim understand as volume increases. So when volume increases, what happens is interaction between the people increase, and interaction between people in different segments also increase, which lead to more norms and values. That what you mean by morality, or the moral density increase, more and more norms and values. So volume increases, the moral density increases. That again create access to activities performed in different segments. Earlier, there was no such access. Now you have access to activities performed over there. So if you find a better person over there, you can depend on that person. Earlier, you don't have access there. Now, if you have some health issues, you have belong to this segment, so you have to depend on a person who's treating that, here only. But now you have the access to the other segment where you have a better person who can treat that disease, whatever. It's not only about treatment, any product or services, whatever. So you have the access. So what will happen is that create competition, and there will be a struggle for existence in the existing occupation or the traditional occupation. So what will happen? The logical conclusion, when there is a struggle for existence, what will happen? The unfit, the fittest will survive. That's the ultimate logic. The fittest will survive, and the unfit, they create new specialization. So that lead to more occupational differentiation. So more and more specializations will come, more occupational specialization will come, differentiation will come. So this process, this is how. And then when there is more specialization, you become more independent on each other, right? You are becoming more autonomous, that is one thing, but everybody is getting dependent upon each other. That results in organic solidarity, where the unity comes from differences and the interdependence, right? Because see, Durkheim's statement is like this: while we like those who resemble us, right, just like us, but we are also drawn towards others, those who are different, precisely because they are different. right? We like those who with us or resemble us, just like us, but at the same time, we are always drawn towards others, those who are different, because they are different. They have something different to give you. So in modern society, if you look at it, there's this interdependence, and this difference is creating that solidarity. The laws are restitutive, which is aimed to restore the order, and the collective conscience is weaker compared to the previous case. So here, individuality is more. Individuals are more functionally interdependent also here. So while individual becoming more autonomous, this is how you are becoming more independent, you are creating specialization, you are becoming an autonomy in that sphere, in that field. So when you are becoming more autonomous, they also become more dependent on their needs, on society, on others. So you are a specialist in that, but you are dependent on many others for many other things. That's what I started off. Right. Again, so when we talk about alienation, this is one point that we can mention here. Alienation, you are saying that you are losing the creativity, but what Durkheim says is you are getting the autonomy to create. You are getting that free hand for specialization. So you become an expert in that. So that's contrary to the theory of alienation. So that we will be discussing in the comparison part, right? So again, when it comes to functions of division of labor, it's now very much obvious. So Durkheim, in fact, seen division of labor as a social fact and not just economic, that I've just told you. And the functions means social integration is there. So it creates functional interdependence, which becomes the basis of organic solidarity. What Marx says, now here the comparison is, this is how you should be writing the answer. On the other side, Marx is using a conflict perspective, and he's saying that it create upper class, lower class, it create conflict among the different sections. But here it says people are different, so they are integrated because they are interdependent. There, it is upper class, lower class, bourgeois, capitalist, like that only. But that's not the case. People are different. People are interdependent here. So this lead to social integration, according to Durkheim. But Marx says that lead to conflict. Then Durkheim says it lead to individuals' autonomy and creativity. So society need more specialization. So that means individual freedom is essential. So division of labor gives individuals the freedom to innovate and specialize. So the division of labor is actually giving individual the much required autonomy to produce. So it gives innovation skills a opportunity. It gives opportunity to specialize. It gives that individual freedom and everything. More specialization, more individual freedom, more innovation, more specialization. What Marx says, he says you are alienated, you don't have opportunity to do express creativity, but here you're actually getting opportunity to express creativity, to innovate and to specialize in everything. So this is a fundamental difference that you need to discuss. Social integration here, there it is conflict. Here autonomy and creativity and innovation, there alienation. I hope this is very much clear. They'll ask you question, comparison, and then you can also talk about stability in complexity. So in modern society, the secular society with huge, large population, division of labor becomes a tool for maintaining the order and coordination. So another point that we can mention. Now comes the third part, right? Here we need to talk about the abnormal forms of division of labor. So Durkheim accepted that the division of labor is not always functional. Yes, it is creating that organic solidarity, interdependence, and it is functional, but it is giving creativity and other things. But at the same time, there are abnormal forms. It can also become abnormal certain times. That can lead to dysfunction, but that is temporary, right? So here temporary, so solution is also only for that. But Marx says the problem is permanent. A permanent solution which is required, that is communism, so or socialism. So here Durkheim's concept of socialism is different. So he identified three abnormal forms. First, the anomy division of labor. So that means it's a kind of state of normlessness. No one is following the rules, regulations, the norms. Not following norms is what normlessness, anomy situation. So anomy division of labor. Violation of norm is what you call as anomy. So normlessness, not following norms, anomy division of labor. And then DOL, division of labor, in fact losses its moral regulation at that point of time. It's not rules, it's not laws. I'm talking about norms that lead to or result in unhealthy competition, workplace conflict and other things. If I want to discuss a contemporary example, startup work culture, right, with no clear hierarchy, that can lead to kind of burnout due to the undefined roles and other things. Perfect. And then inadequate organization. Work is not properly structured or organized. That lead to conflict and also inefficiency. So that's again dysfunctional. So which is common in bureaucratic, where the coordination is lacking and other things. Normally, bureaucracy is supposed to have that efficiency and proper coordination of the other things, but that issue is there. right? And again, forced division of labor. You don't like something, you don't want to become a doctor, but your parents forced you to become a doctor, but your mind is something different. So that again create frustration, right? That's a forced division of labor that create dysfunction in society. So individuals who are forced into roles which are not suitable for their talent. So here there is no room for merit, and that result into frustration and inequality. For example, the Indian caste system, something which you can discuss, where the occupational roles are determined by birth and not by ability. What is the solution? Durkheim's solution is basically ethical socialism. So Durkheim believed the normal state of division of labor you can preserve by going with this, which means create occupational association for guilds and other things. So the first problem, anomy, can be solved. The unhealthy competition can be solved to some extent, and again implementing ethical codes for each occupation, right, that's why code of conduct and other things is there in the occupation. And these bodies definitely will have to prevent anomy, properly organize the work, and match the talents to the roles which is actually performed. So these three issues can be solved. So this is his vision of socialism. So if you ask, to compare Durkheim's and Marxian concept of socialism, this is what you need to talk about. So here it is based on ethics and professional self-regulation, not the state control. There, everything is controlled by the state, right? So, and this is the problem which is temporary for Durkheim that can be solved. But for Marx, it is permanent and a permanent solution required. Now, finally, we'll also have to look at the relationship between individual and society. See, I told you already, individual while becoming more autonomous comes to more depend more heavily on society, because we seek in others what we lack in ourselves, and associations are formed wherever there is a true exchange of service. So Durkheim's answer to this classical sociological problem is actually unique. He gave primacy to society, yet he also acknowledged the rising individual autonomy. That's where he's discussing that organic solidarity. But even as individuals becoming more independent, when they specialize, when they innovate, they rely more heavily on society for services, for collaboration, and meaning and purpose and everything. So the paradox is, ultimately, now you will be concluding your answer with a question from where we started off with. An individual, while becoming more and more autonomous, comes to depend more heavily on society. So this is a core insight of Durkheim's theory of division of labor. So guys, I hope you got clarity about this theory. It's a very simple theory. You can look at the PDF where I've given the block diagram and everything, which is going to make it very simple. Or you can look at the other lectures where I have explained with the help of the PDF rather than just simply discussing. There also I've shown the PDF, that block diagram and everything. So to sum up, division of labor is not just economic, but it's a social fact according to Durkheim. And it explains the transition from mechanical solidarity to organic solidarity. And it also reveals how modern society maintains integration by or through that functional interdependence. The interdependence is there, which is functional. However, it can become abnormal in certain cases, the anomy case, the disorganization situation, the forced specialization. But Durkheim's solution lies in creating that occupational ethics and the professional association. So if I want to discuss a contemporary relevance here, yeah, you can talk about today's gig economy, AI-driven labor divisions, and debates on work-life balance can all be analyzed through Durkheim's perspective. So you apply these classical theories in the modern context, and then you start writing the answers, and then you will get you have to practice that sociological perspective. So society is not the mere sum of individuals, it's a system formed by their association. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you are looking for any test series for sociology or any one-to-one consultation or a mentorship program, check out the details in the description and get in touch with us. So see you guys in the next session. Thank you so much.